what I did to draw the second last presentation on day 4, but I've actually gone through the presentation and taken a couple of slides out, so we are conscious of time. I think we're about half an hour before, but the key about this afternoon's presentation is that it's about an enabling presentation. Rather than telling you who we are, it's what we can necessarily do for you in planning with the project cycle for the boom. International ISOS has been in PNG for 29 years. We operate on a number of major sites supporting Newmont, Exxon, Total, Santos, Clough, and a number of other corporate clients. We have around 350 to 400 clinical staff with around another 50 support staff. The aspect of International ISOS is we are a global medical company, but we have a major focus in the mining and resources sector in PNG. I'm just going to show a short video which assists you in understanding about the scale and the scope of SOS and the resources that we can bring and focus on PNG. Video, please. So that was a strategic overview of our international services that we can focus onto Papua New Guinea. The idea about this afternoon is more about the enabling process of how we're preparing for the boom. So what I want to do is take about 5 to 8 minutes to talk about the planning cycle for big projects, in particular how, as a organisation, the health considerations need to be taken into planning, because the resulting risks and non-mitigation of them, result in us performing 2 to 3 medical evacuations a week domestically within PNG from remote sites, and at least 1 a week internationally for local companies and for national companies. Now, the cost of that in relation to those services, you're looking at 100 to 150,000 Australian dollars for an Australian-based evacuation, and 250,000 Australian dollars for an international out of Australia to an on-forwarding country after hospitalisation, treatment and rehabilitation. So the time spent in planning, in ensuring that you've identified the right consideration issues and risks and then the mitigation strategies is well worth the cycle. I'm going to start the PowerPoint presentation if I'm right, please. Do I push this? So, project cycle, this is no different to what's planned through any course or any operational procedure, starting with mobilisation, through to construction, through to production, care and maintenance, and of course an integrated aspect of emergency response. The planning considerations for any of you sitting in this room or for any company, at a paramount level for Papua New Guinea is at high risk. And it's high risk because one is its location, two are its services, and three is the environment. So a few planning considerations here that we work in the planning process with the majors, oil and gas miners, and NGOs, anybody else working in a PNG challenging environment, around mobilisation, recruitment, administration and logistics. I've left them at a very high level because to each of you, it means something within your industry, it means something else. My eyesight is terrible on there. Does that mean you're getting old if you just start reading the screen? The construction side is around workforce safety and the environment of creating a campsite and those services that are aligned. Deployment and development of a safe workforce. So part of it is work site, part of it is workforce. Production side, workforce sustainability and reporting, safety monitoring and prevention systems, care and maintenance, compliance, not only compliance with your own industry standards, but more importantly around those community compliance issues where you've signed up as part of ESG program, as part of wellness programs, as part of the development with the community, that harmonious working and living environment. Finally, around the business continuity and planning aspect, your response aspects. Can we go back one? Did I push the wrong buttons in? Sorry guys. And finally, the business continuity side emergency response procedures. So at a consideration level for planning and operation in PNG, they are the things at the high level that we're considering input and involvement at the earliest level. We then look at the risks associated with not getting it right. From a mobilisation perspective, recruiting staff with underlying health conditions, recruiting staff who've not been through the appropriate and skill or threat-based assessment on health and underlying. So on a weekly basis we deal with site on staff who have an existing medical condition hasn't been picked up as part of their fit for work. High blood pressure, diabetes, coming on site without enough medication, and of course as an employer, it's a high risk level, but as a potential employee, all too often staff are screening underlying conditions because it stops them from getting employed or may stop them from getting a longer term contract or renewal. And also the unknown environmental and health risks of the site. Is the water potable? Dengue, malaria, bacteria in the soil, environmental risks that are unknown to you in an environment that you are yet to operate in. We assisted an Australian mining company with the evacuation of one of their employees about 6 months ago, who was on a remote site, new geologist. We spoke to him, gave him a briefing, he went on site. Took his first aid kit despite the fact that our risk assessment was much higher. He got an insect bite, he washed his leg in the stream, and within 10 days he had tropical ulcer down to the bone. Once again, understanding your environment, understanding the health risk and mitigation. For the construction side, that having not done a proper preparation, the medical service on site do not match the risk. I.e., is there enough oxygen? Do you have emergency response capability? If you're not aware, there's no night flying in Papua New Guinea. So if you have a casualty at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, an evacuation helicopter or fixed-wing aircraft can't take off, then the patient is there overnight. If overnight a tropical storm comes in, the fog sets in, seen or been video, you know, those sites are very remote and are very susceptible to the environment. If you don't have the appropriate medical mitigation on site as far as the service is concerned, immediately the patient's at risk and your project is at risk through having to stop to deal with a medical emergency. From the production side, it's about compliance. It's meeting ESGs, it's meeting your health care requirements. Insurance is such an important part of these projects. We work very closely with all the global insurance companies because our medical and medical site services have to have indemnity aligned with the risk on site. But what most people forget is that part of that mitigation strategy is also having the appropriate medical insurance in place in order that that evacuation domestically or to Australia or internationally can be covered. And it's not just the flight. If you understand, to get a patient out of PNG to Australia, you have to already have booked and paid for a receiving hospital in Australia or Singapore. You have to book and pay for road transport in Singapore, Australia. If you're non-Australian, you need a medical visa that you must first produce the receipt of hospital and road transport to get the visa. Then you must get an aircraft booked, and that's either to or from, which also then includes visas for the staff. And then you must get border force approval, then immigration approval, and then you can fly. So that whole process takes 2 to 3 days, which if you don't build into your planning process, has a significant cost risk to the project, then you'll have setbacks. Care and maintenance, breaches of community health standards, environmental risks of tailings, chemical spills. How is your social environment impacted upon the local community as far as they're concerned? Diseases that are brought into PNG that aren't picked up and spread amongst local communities. Poor morale and non-work related injuries. Mental health. 40% of the current work injuries in PNG are non-work related to mental health. People are not preparing to go to remote sites. People are not preparing for long and arduous days. People are not preparing for separation. So wellness and mental health has become an enormous component of how we mitigate that risk on site and create that work culture. And finally, around the unprepared for a mass casualty event. And we're all aware of what's happening in PNG at the moment, from earthquakes to volcanoes to local violence that is on the increase. These are the risks to the planning considerations that must be put in place. So, what do we do? In the planning cycle around mobilisation, we provide global assistance, in particular in the preparation for pre-employment screening and fit for work. So we're aligned with all the major gas producers, European standards, Australian standards, American standards, where you can either have your screening done in your host country via ISOS, you can have them done on entry into PNG in Port Moresby and Lae, where we have major occupational therapy facilities. We also partner with Pacific International Hospital. A site health review is where we send one of our clinical team to a site and they do an assessment of the environmental risks and the health risks on site before you deploy. And we develop a strategy with you as to what we need to overcome prior to that. I said environmental risks and health risks. The construction aspect, we're heavily involved with the toolbox of the morning as far as education is concerned, as far as prevention is concerned, as far as preparation is concerned. We're the only American Heart Association credentialed trainer in PNG, from basic first aid to advanced first aid, through to mine site rescue training, through to heights training, all those sort of services that are on site as part of mitigation, and on-site clinic and staffing. So we currently, as I said, operate 21 clinics. They are 24/7. We have 250 staff employed, and that's from a surgical facility to community health workers to laboratories. It's a 24/7 operation that assists you in mitigating the risks as part of the planning considerations that you're making in order to have your reinstate a successful production facility. On to production. I mean, compliance and regulations, are paramount to any industry standard. We assist there, as I said, with developing your occupational therapy policies, your mental health policies, your wellness policies, your ESG policies. We are ISO compliant, we're BSI compliant, so we're able to provide that service for you and with you, and partner with you in delivering that successful production. Care and maintenance. As I said, health and wellness programs. Almost 40% of the delivery of our products are aligned with the wellness programs. And that's aligned to ergonomics, to mental health, to wellness programs, male and female oriented, to counselling services, all on site. We operate extensive e-learning and extensive telehealth platforms, where our key here is escalation, where our on-site staff have access to global experts in their field instantaneously via our 26 assistance centres and via our online telehealth systems. The other one is vector control. That underlying health issue that sits around malaria and dengue that shut sites down, shut workforces down. We're the largest medical services provider who provide vector control. We have 28 trained vector control technicians, and of those there are 6 trained poisonous snake catchers. So we specialise, we're Australian accredited. We keep all the major sites operational at night, whether they be Newcrest, now Newmont, whether it's Total, whether it's Exxon. If I can paint a picture for you, you've all had a barbecue at home at night, where you turn the light on in the corner of your gazebo or your shed, and all of a sudden, every mosquito within 5 square kilometres or insect appears on the light. And of course, not long after, the cane toads arrive, not long after the frogs arrive, and in that food chain, not long after come the snakes. So Papua New Guinea have 2 of the most poisonous snakes in the world, the Papuan black and the taipan, and they love frogs. They do like cane toads, but cane toads will kill them. So we operate a service around vector. We have a full cycle vector program where we do trapping, where we do the laboratory aspect of what cycle mosquitoes are in, what type of mosquitoes they are, and we put the appropriate mitigation in place around larviciding or fogging. PNG have this, the PNG culture is to fog everything, but to fog everything, you're only meeting about 25% of the time, because the mosquitoes larvicide monthly, they only lay eggs monthly, so unless you're catching them and trapping them and mapping them, you're fogging at the wrong time, and you're not killing mosquitoes, killing humans by filling their lungs full of toxic chemicals. Sorry. Yeah. Lastly is around the MERT process. So we have a medical evacuation response plan. We operate 2 ICU aeromedical response teams in PNG. They're both expat ICU nurses and anaesthetists. We have ICU pods, so we're on call 24/7. They're dedicated to operate from Port Moresby. We have an agreement with Tropic Air, King Air and Citation. Our teams fly 24/7 to a site. We can stabilise a patient in the plane overnight on self-support and fly the next morning. but it's all part of the integrated planning process. So in looking at this cycle, outside this afternoon on the table there's a brochure that covers off on all these products and services that assist you in mitigating risk. And there's also this planning cycle out there. My business cards are out there. If you would like to have a further discussion with myself or the team, please don't hesitate. Thanks for your time this afternoon.